Do you believe that love can appear at the most unlikely moment? Imagine a young nurse hired to care for a tycoon trapped in a vegetative state. Everyone around her tells her he is beyond saving, but she refuses to give up. Between one-sided conversations, a mysterious cat, and an unlikely spectacle, something incredible happens. He gives the first sign of life. What started as a simple job turns into a story of overcoming, humor, and love that defies all expectations. Are you ready to discover how a simple gesture can change everything? This mansion or mausoleum? Clara muttered to herself as she parked her motorbike at the huge entrance to Villa Salgado. The place was intimidating, high walls, huge windows, and a silence that seemed to echo. She took off her helmet, fixed her hair, and took a deep breath. First day, Clara. Time to shine, or at least not screw it up. The butler, a tall, serious man, opened the door before she rang the bell. "Miss Duarte?" he asked, analyzing her with a look that seemed to weigh down his soul. "That's me, Clara Duarte, the new nurse," he replied with a wide smile. The butler did not respond. "Come in. Mrs. Salgado is waiting." Upon entering, Clara was unable to hide her astonishment. The inside of the house looked like a museum, marble on the floor, crystal chandeliers and portraits that stared as if judging your presence. "Welcome to the Temple of Ostentation," he murmured softly. "Is something wrong, miss?" asked the butler, turning quickly. "Ah, nothing, just admiring the shine of the chandeliers," she improvised, trying to hide it. In the main room, Helena Salgado was waiting for her. She was a slender woman with flawless skin and perfectly coiffed blonde hair. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than Clara's motorcycle. "Are you the nurse?" Helena asked emotionlessly, with an almost disdainful tone. "Yes, ma'am. Clara Duarte. A pleasure to meet you." "Really? Well, he won't notice if you're here or not, so no need for formalities." Clara blinked, not knowing if she had understood correctly. Won't he notice?" Helena sighed, as if explaining something obvious. "Leonardo is in a vegetative state. He doesn't hear, he doesn't feel. You just need to make sure he stays alive and clean. That's it." "So I don't need to introduce myself to him?" Clara took a risk, with a smile. Helena didn't respond, just rolled her eyes and waved at the butler. As they walked up the stairs, Clara couldn't resist. "Is she always this warm?" The butler remained impassive. "Ms. Salgado has different priorities." "Interesting," Clara replied, unable to hide her sarcasm. When they reached Leonardo's room, Clara stopped. The door was opened, revealing an immense but cold environment. In the center, a hospital bed occupied the space, surrounded by machines that emit rhythmic beeping. Leonardo was lying motionless, with his eyes closed. Clara approached slowly. "So, you're the boss," she said softly as she organized the space. "Well, I hope you don't mind, but I'll send some around." She arranged the towels next to the bed and began checking the equipment. The room looked like a cross between a hospital and a mausoleum, with no sign of life other than the machines. Clara sighed and placed her hand on Leonardo's forehead, as if to measure his temperature. "You're lucky you don't hear everything they say around here. After finishing arranging the space, Clara sat next to him for a moment. "You know, maybe you won't listen to me, but I'll talk anyway. I work better by talking. So if something here gets under your skin, blink or something." She waited a second and then laughed to herself. "I'm kidding. If you blink, I'm the one who's going to need medical attention." Clara stayed in the room for a while longer, adjusting Leonardo's position, checking the devices and thinking about what awaited her. I already felt that mansion held more secrets than any contract could predict. Clara entered Leonardo's room with the same determination as the day before. "Good morning, boss," she said, as if she were speaking to a colleague in an office. "Dinner is served." But don't worry, the menu today is liquid and full of nutrients, the haute cuisine of supplements. Oh, D. While preparing the feeding syringe, Clara kept up the conversation. You know, Leonardo, I was told that you were an important guy, businessman, visionary, but no one warned me that it would be so quiet around here. It almost makes me miss the noise of my old neighborhood. She inserted the tube carefully, adjusting the equipment. Look, I know you probably can't hear me, but I like talking. It helps the time pass, you know, and who knows, with luck my voice is so annoying that you decide to wake up just to shut me up. Clara smiled as she finished the procedure. Before leaving the room, he took one last look at Leonardo. For now, mission accomplished, but you're going to have to start collaborating. Waking up would be a good start, don't you think? In the hallway, Clara crossed paths with Helena. The wife was impeccably dressed, as if she were attending an event, and was holding a glass of wine. I see you're comfortable, Clara said, trying to keep her tone neutral. Someone has to be, Helena replied, without even looking directly at her. Interesting philosophy, replied Clara, but you know, comfort can also come from a more welcoming environment. Maybe a song here, a conversation there. Helena stopped and turned around, finally facing Clara. Music? Talk? He's in a vegetative state. None of that matters. Clara crossed her arms. Maybe not for you. But you know, if I was in that bed, I'd want someone to try to do the bare minimum to remind me that I still exist. Helena took a step forward. Her eyes narrowed. You're just a maid. You're here to do your job. So do it and spare me your opinions. Clara was silent for a moment, but her expression remained firm. Understood, Mrs. Salgado. I will do what I came to do. She turned and walked back to Leonardo's room, but not before muttering to herself, and I'm going to do it my way. That afternoon, while organizing her bedroom closet, Clara found something that caught her attention. A small music box, aged but still functional. What do we have here? He asked, opening it carefully. The melody that came out was soft but full of nostalgia. She took the box close to Leonardo. That's yours, isn't it? I bet there's a story behind it. But Clara placed the music box on the table next to him and wound it up. As the melody played, she watched intently. For a moment, he thought he saw a slight twitch in Leonardo's eyes. Ah, so you like it? Maybe music isn't such a bad idea after all, she said, smiling. You know, Leonardo, I'm going to tell you a secret. Whenever I don't know what to do, I try something new. And it seems I found your weak point, music. She stayed there for a while, listening to the melody while adjusting the cushions and checking the devices. When the sound stopped, Clara closed the box carefully and sighed. This was just the beginning, boss. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I'm not going to give up that easily. Later, when preparing the daily reports, Clara reflected on what she had felt at that moment. Maybe it was her imagination, but something inside her said that Leonardo was reacting, albeit in a subtle way. Don't worry, Leonardo, he murmured as he wrote. I've been in tougher fights than this. You don't know, but I'm stubborn. Clara opened the door to Leonardo's room, holding a mysterious box and a smile of pure satisfaction. Good morning, boss. I brought company. I hope you don't mind visitors. From inside the box, a Russian blue cat emerged, stretching elegantly. Clara placed the animal on the bed, right next to Leonardo. Say hi to Mr. Salgado, little one. He loves felines. Well, at least he did before he, hibernated. The cat purred, settling down next to Leonardo. Clara watched carefully, waiting for any reaction. Did you hear that? That purring is almost hypnotic. If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. Suddenly, the door opened abruptly, revealing Helena with an expression of pure horror. What is that? She exclaimed, pointing at the cat. That? Oh, he's Mr. Salgado's new therapist, Clara replied without losing her composure. I said, I didn't want animals in this house, Helena shouted, crossing her arms. And I said I would do anything to help your husband, Clara replied. If that includes a cat, then it will be a cat. Helena rolled her eyes, clearly frustrated. You are impossible. Thank you. I've been hearing that since high school, Clara replied with a fake smile. Later, Clara took Leonardo to the garden for a little experiment. Okay, boss. Showtime. I hope you're ready for something special. On the lawn, a majestic horse, guided by a trainer, began a display of graceful movements. They say you loved horses, so I thought this might help, said Clara, as she adjusted Leonardo's position in the chair. She watched intently as the spectacle unfolded. The horse trotted, turned, and moved with impressive precision. Clara kept her eyes fixed on Leonardo. Just a sign, boss. Anything. A blink of an eye. A moving finger. And then it happened. A slight movement of Leonardo's finger caught his attention. Wait, you did that? Clara leaned in closer, hardly believing what she saw. See? Even you think this horse is incredible. Clara felt a wave of emotion, but before she could celebrate, Helena appeared again, accompanied by 2 house staff. What is going on here? Why is he out of the room? And what is this ridiculous scene? Ridiculous? Clara said, remaining calm. I think Mr. Salgado would disagree. He's just moved. And that's more progress than anything that's happened in the last few months. Helena laughed dismissively. Oh, please. He didn't move. You're delirious. Delusional? Want to bet? Stay here and watch, Clara replied defiantly. Helena crossed her arms, but before she could respond, the cat climbed into Leonardo's lap, purring loudly. Clara looked at Helena and said, See? Even his therapist is convinced that we're on the right path. Helena snorted, but something in her gaze seemed less sure. Clara, on the other hand, felt her determination grow. You may not believe it, but I know he's fighting to come back, and as long as he fights, so will I. That night, as Clara took notes about the day, she thought about Leonardo's reaction. Even though it was small, it was a victory, and she knew she wouldn't stop there. Get ready, boss. This is just the beginning, she said to herself, with a confident smile. Clara pushed Leonardo's wheelchair onto the balcony, where the morning sun softly illuminated the garden. Good morning, boss. Ready for another day of therapy with the most insistent nurse in the world. She adjusted the position of the chair so he could see the vibrant greenery in front of him. You know, I thought about putting you out for a run today, but I thought it would be better to start slow. I don't want you to complain that I'm getting too hard early. Clara held Leonardo's hand and began the daily exercises. Come on, boss, move a finger just so I know you still find my bad jokes funny. As she performed the movements with patience and care, Helena appeared at the door, watching with crossed arms. Still insisting on this theatre? She asked with her usual acidic tone. Clara raised her head but remained calm. Theatre? No. I prefer to call it determination. Something that maybe you should try one day. Helena snorted, but didn't respond. Clara turned her attention to Leonardo with a smile on her face. Don't mind her, boss. She's just jealous because I'm funnier. Later, as Clara was adjusting the equipment in her room, she heard a faint sound behind her. She froze. Leonardo? He asked, slowly turning around. His eyes widened when he saw Leonardo's lips moving slightly. She ran closer to him. Are you trying to talk? He made a visible effort and a single word came out, barely audible. Clara! Tears filled her eyes. You did it. I knew you were there. I knew it. In the midst of the excitement, Helena entered abruptly. What's going on here? Clara turned to her, a defiant gleam in her eyes. He spoke. He said my name. Helena laughed in disbelief. That's ridiculous. It must have been a reflex. He can't. He can and he will, interrupted Clara. She held Leonardo's hand tightly. You're going to show everyone, boss. You're going to prove them wrong. In the following days, Leonardo made small advances, starting to move his fingers, then his arms. Each progress was celebrated by Clara as a great victory. Until one afternoon, while Clara was helping Leonardo to eat, he looked directly at her. "Clara, you saved me." She was speechless for a moment, before responding with a smile. "You did all the hard work, boss. I was just here to give you a little push." A few weeks later, Leonardo surprised everyone again, this time with a request that no one expected. "Clara, marry me." Clara choked on what she was drinking. "What? You just learned to talk, and you're already asking someone to marry you?" Leonardo smiled, or at least tried to. "I don't want any more wasted time." She held his hand with tears in her eyes. "Well, boss, I think you just promoted me. Of course I accept." And the news of her recovery and romance spread quickly, transforming Villa Salgado into a symbol of overcoming. Helena, unable to deal with Clara's new role, decided to leave the house, but not before expressing her discontent. "Good luck with him," said Helena as she left with her usual bitterness. Clara just smiled. "Thank you. I think we're going to need a lot of luck and a little more patience." Months later, in a simple ceremony in the mansion's garden, Clara and Leonardo got married, surrounded by friends and people who had been touched by their story. That day, Clara whispered to Leonardo while they were dancing, "I promised I wouldn't give up on you, and look where we've come." Leonardo responded with a full smile. "We arrived together."